Guys, what's going on? So let's talk for a little bit. Apparently, is June is Men's Mental Health Month, and the only reason I know that is because there's this post that's flying around that says, June is Men's Mental Health Month, and since no one is gonna talk about it, I'm gonna say, hey, fellas, just let you know I appreciate you. And I noticed in the trajectory of the video, there's kind of this subtext, right? That post is meant to be an antithesis for something else. Because what I've understood is that the reason no one's talking about men's mental health is because men don't talk about men's mental health. It's an inside job, but kind of proclaiming that no one else is talking about it is ironic because the people who should be talking about it avoid it. You know what I'm saying? And using numbers alone, let's do some statistics. Statistically, men typically don't have close male relationships by the age of 50, right? Which is why the probability of them taking their lives later in life is much higher than women, because women sustain intimate friendships past a certain age. Men don't. I've had a podcast for 5 years, and it's all around mental health. I looked at the statistics of my listeners who listens. 86% of my listeners are women. 14% are men. And within my own community, my own age bracket, my own demographics, a lot of times when I do talk to other men, they're talking about podcasts. Rarely are they asking me if I've listened to a podcast about mental health. They're asking me if I've listened to some celebrities podcast talking about God knows what, or talking about what women should be doing, etc. Rarely is a conversation around, hey, have you heard this podcast about friendship, about mental health, about men's personal development and what it takes, right? It's an inside job, okay? And like I said, that post that I referenced earlier seems to be a declaration that somebody else should be doing the job for me. As a man, right, I understand the importance of mental health, my own, and the fellas in my life, right? I'm very intentional about checking in because I understand the importance of it and the significance of just having somebody check on you. And I had somebody ask me recently, who checks on you? Who checks in, right? And that too made me understand the importance of it. A lot of times men don't want to even address mental health because it's associated with being weak. Having a brain, having emotions is not gender specific, okay? It's not mutually exclusive. And that's the rhetoric that's kind of pumped into society, ironically enough, but it doesn't help anybody. If it's men's mental health, then men should be more willing to talk about the mental health versus just saying that, oh, somebody else isn't talking about it. What are you doing about it? How are you checking in on your friends, right? How deep do your friendships go? What's the bond like? Okay. At some point in time, we have to understand our work, especially when we notice that the job is not being done properly. So to outwardly say that no one else is talking about it and saying, hey, I appreciate you. Well, how are you showing active appreciation consistently? Right? How are you making sure to sustain your relationships past just buffers, sports and talk about the weather? Because true friendships, true solid connections, and taking care of mental health goes beyond that. You have to get a little deep. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be real. You have to be raw. You got to be willing to be uncomfortable to create safety. And I find that a lot of times people only want to pay attention when there's tragedy, right? There's only trajectory after tragedy. So after you can't do anything, now you want to say, hey, check in on people. Life is too short. You have the opportunity now. What are you doing about it? You're too busy. I just found it interesting. And again, there's always an opportunity to check in on people. But it's up to you to decide how vulnerable you want to be when it comes to checking in on those people. And be real. You know, as a guy, how willing am I to be intimate in those friendships? And intimacy is not just sexual. Intimacy is intimacy. How much of a safe space am I creating for not just myself, but also for the guys in my life, also for the women in my life? And safety is not just being able to defend yourself, right? You could be a warrior in a garden. Safety is all about, hey, how safe do people feel to come to me when they're not okay? Men's mental health is also men's responsibility. All right? Don't leave it to somebody else to do a job that you yourself don't even want to show up to do. And if mental health is important to you and you say, well, I don't know how to do that, how are you willing to learn? Because there's always opportunity. How uncomfortable are you willing to be to create safety as a man?